Good day, Africa, and you're welcome to another edition of AgroLink. And AgroLink is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. AgroLink is also a show that promotes and highlights agricultural activities on the continent. And for this season, as you're aware, we are showcasing agriculture as an entrepreneurial venture to the youth to attract them into this field. And today we are here at El-leenia Farms Limited, here in Essumamba, to speak to the CEO on all things concerning pig. My name is Essumamba Sam. Stay with us as we go on a short break, and when we return, I shall introduce the guest.
This is Africa's most friendly nation, Ghana. A warm reception awaits you in an environment where you can discover and harness your full potential. Your home is an academic haven lying northeast of the city center, a quick dash from the airport. A spirited community where young, vibrant minds are empowered to express themselves, break academic boundaries, and thrive in an atmosphere of rich cultural heritage and excellence in various collegiate and extracurricular activities. This institution represents a whole new world of fun and offers you a variety of activities, facilities, and services geared towards your total development. Believing in the uniqueness of all our students, we encourage them to pursue excellence in integrity. Welcome to the University of Ghana, your preferred academic destination.
You're welcome back from the break. If you just joined, this is AgroLink on AAOU TV, and we are here at Essumamba to discuss all things pig with the CEO of El-leenia Farms Limited. You can join this discussion on our social media handles at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, and on our dedicated website at tv.aau.org. You're welcome to AgroLink, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other introduction to give to yourself apart from what I just said?
Well, mainly they call me Mr. Ernest around here. Yeah, and I think that's that. You can call me Ernest.
Ernest Owusu Ansah,
Yes.
CEO of El-leenia Farms.
Yes.
And I heard you won an award.
Yes, it was the best livestock farmer for the district. Suhum Krabuakota.
Okay.
Yes.
And was it because of the pig production or
Yes,
other?
yes, it was mainly because of the pig production.
Oh, okay.
That was in 2017, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. So there are other livestock productions you could have gone
Yes.
into. So why did you choose pig?
Well, the main reason why I went into piggery is because of the availability of pork meat on our markets. For example, if you go to many local markets in Ghana,
Yes.
it's very difficult to find pork vendors
Yes.
around. And I figured with the way people have gained massive interest in pig production and also consumption of pork meat, it would be a good idea to go into pig farming.
Okay.
Besides its lucrative avenues as well, but that's the main reason why I went into pig farming.
Okay. So in your opinion then, what is the state of pig production in Ghana?
I believe there have been massive increases in pig production as well as consumption in Ghana. Unlike the past where there was even a stigma about pork consumption, but now people have begun to realize its lucrativeness for one, whereas you go into breeding pigs for sale,
Yes.
and also the health factors concerned with pig consumption.
Okay. Then again, we come to who can be a pig farmer. Usually the notion about pig farmers is that this sector is for people who haven't attained the highest level of education. That is for people who have dropped out during the SHS level, people who don't have jobs after SHS. They are the ones who go into pig production. Who do you think can be a pig farmer?
Oh, I believe everyone who has the passion and a little bit of know-how about agriculture can go into pig farming. I do not believe that, for example, pig farmers or in general farmers are people who have little education.
Yes, very
or
necessary.
you need to have certain degrees
To go into.
in agriculture to be able to go into any sort of farming. Me, for example, I use myself as an example. I have a 4-year BBA in administration, business administration. I also have a 4-year degree in oil pipelining, but I'm here doing piggery.
Piggery.
You know, so it's just if you have the passion, and pig farming is not such a very difficult venture to go into. If you know the basics, anybody, I believe, can go into pig farming.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of cost, is it a costly venture?
Well, with everything, you need capital.
Capital, yes, definitely.
You know, for example, you can't breed pigs in a residential area. You understand? The noise, the stench. But if you want to go into pig production, I think one of the main resources you need is land. And you don't need a big piece of land. If you have about 2 plots of land, for example, you can easily go into pig production. So, I mean, with that said, if you have the land, then the rest is structure. And also, you're going to need a lot of water.
A lot of water?
Yes, because pigs drink a lot of water. People don't know this. And people think that pigs are dirty.
Yes.
It's actually the opposite. Pigs usually bathe in mud because it's cool. But if you have clean, healthy water, that would do the trick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking about infrastructure, what are some of the conditions or what are some of the things you must take into consideration when you are building a pen for a pig?
First of all, I think you'd have to look at the size of your investment. Some people would start pig farming with 2 or 3. So basically, in the beginning, you don't really need a huge structure.
Okay.
If you have the capital for that, that's fine. Because eventually they're going to produce and you're going to need extra structures to house them. So, for example, where I am is very indigenous to cheche flies. So you have to look at some type of netting to protect the animals from cheche fly bites. Also, you need a very solid structure because pigs are very strong. And if you don't have a very solid structure, you're always going to be doing renovations.
Okay.
So you need to be able to have a block structure is preferably the best thing than a wooden structure. Because with wood, they can even chew on it. So these are some of the main things you'd need for a structure for a startup.
Okay. So from pig pens that we've seen, there's a sloping in terms of the drainage. Yeah. Is there a special reason for this?
Yes, there is. Everybody have their own idea. But with me, I decided that to be able to have quick and efficient cleaning, you need to slope the floors to about 25-30 degrees so that whatever waste you wash off the floors can easily slope into gutters so that those gutters will then lead into your sewage system. Yeah, so that's the reason for that. Okay. So it makes it easy because you don't want the puddles of water and pig waste to be on the same level. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of trouble cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And also, are there protective gears that one must wear, as well as other sanitary conditions they must take into consideration when they are entering a pen, or when they are actually, in their day-to-day activities in the piggery?
Yes. Mainly what we do is we don't usually go into the pens with the same, I would say, Wellington boots we use outside. Okay. We have special boots for the inside, and the main reason for that is to prevent transfer of diseases or bacteria. And when you come to my place, we've created foot baths. Okay. So that before anybody enters the building, you wash your feet or your whatever you're wearing before you go in there. And it's also a preventive measure. With that, basically, if you have any working gear, you can easily clean the pens. Yeah, okay. You don't need any special clothing. No.
Okay. And how often are the foot baths changed?
Every day.
Every day?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we do cleaning every day.
Okay.
So every day we clean the housing units. The foot baths have to be changed.
Okay. Do you build the infrastructure based on the weather, and is the season for raising pigs based on the weather as well?
No, not really. I think pigs can be bred all year round. during the rainy season, dry season, it doesn't really matter. Pigs are very versatile animals, and they can be able to cope in all kinds of conditions. Imagine breeding pigs in Sweden.
Okay.
It's very cold, but they have pigs there.
They have pigs there.
So it doesn't really matter, yeah.
Okay. And does the infrastructure, is it dependent on the weather as well, where you are and how you build the infrastructure?
No, not really. I believe that the infrastructure is actually dependent on the closeness of the area where you want to build to, I would say, civilization.
Okay.
Because, for example, if you go to some place like East Legon and you own your own land and you want to breed pigs, I'm sure the community will not allow you to do that, or even the assembly.
Yes.
So you need to have an isolated area, basically, so you can be able to do your business quietly. Yeah.
Okay. And how often do you cross the pigs?
Well, the breeding cycle for pigs is usually twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yes, because it's basically about 4 months. It's 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days from time of crossing to birth. So if you do that calculation, you can be able to cross your animals twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people try to go 3 times a year, but that's quite impossible because usually you go into the next month of the next year. But then you also bring stress to the animal. Yeah, after the animal gives birth and then you wean the piglets, you need to give it a certain amount of time to, pick up again before you can cross again.
Okay, let me even take you back. At what age is the pig ready to be crossed?
Well, it depends. Usually, animals that are well cared for should come in heat between 5 and 6 months old. But then usually you don't have to cross them at that time. We usually give 2 or 3 heat cycles before we do the crossing. The reason for that is usually when they come in the first heat, their wombs are not that expanded. And then usually you can have fatalities with births. Or the animal would give birth to only 4 or 5 because they have such a small womb. But then if you allow the second cycle, third cycle, heat session to pass by, and then you cross, then you tend to have a lot of litters. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And how will I know my pig is on heat?
Well, there are signs that you can notice on the sow, the female pig, and usually there is an enlargement of the vulva. There is redness, and then the animal seems to be a bit agitated, especially when it's in the same housing with other boers, which is male pigs. Once she senses them, you can tell that she wants the male close to her. So when you know this and then you see these signs, then you can take the female to the boer.
And how is the crossing done? Is it the male that goes to the female or the female that goes to the male?
The boer climbs on top of the sow.
No, I know the pigs are separated, so
Yes.
each in a pen.
Yes.
Yes. So is it that the female moves into the pen of the male or the male moves into the pen of the female?
We usually move the female to the male.
Why?
Males are very dominant. You know that.
Everywhere.
Exactly. So if you have had a male in a pen for several months and you want him to be more active, you bring the female to him. So it's more like the male has a guest. So he has to entertain the guest. And so usually the females even feel more comfortable when they go to the male. Yes. If you take the male to the female, for example, sometimes if the female is a bit larger than the male, trouble happens.
Trouble
He ends up
happens?
either wounding the male or beating up the male.
Oh.
Yes, it won't allow the male to cross. In some instances.
In some instances.
Yes.
And you actually mentioned that the females are more comfortable. How do you know they are more comfortable when when they are moved to the males and not the other way around?
Well, when you take the female to the male, you know, before I mentioned the female could be agitated
Yes,
because it's in heat and it wants a male. But as soon as you take the female to the male, it calms down. And then you see the male showing interest.
Okay.
So when the male starts showing interest and the female is still calm, then that means that there are viable conditions for crossing.
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes the female wouldn't allow the male to cross. It depends on the size of the male for one, or with animals you can hardly tell, but maybe the female senses something in the male she doesn't like.
Okay, so there are instances where you can put them together and they won't cross.
Yes, yes. Or sometimes the male could be now, meaning that the male would not be able to cross or isn't able to cross.
Okay, then
Not active.
So can this be fixed?
Usually, no.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have to slaughter it.
And I think with this, then that brings in the work of the veterinary officer, because probably there's something wrong with it. So how often does the vet visit your farm?
Well, at least once a month, the vet should be able to pass by the farm to make sure everything is okay. But in instances where there is an emergency, for example, if a female is not, if it's time to give birth and the female is struggling, you can call the vet. Or if you notice any disease symptoms or lack of appetite in an animal, things like that, then you call the vet.
Okay.
But usually every once a month, the vet should be able to pass by the farm.
Okay. And when the female is crossed by the male, how do I, as a pig farmer, someone starts in, how do I know the pig or the female has been crossed?
Well, one of the main signs to determine that is usually you see red blotches on the back of the female, closer to the shoulders. So when you see that, you know the male has attempted to cross the female.
Okay.
But sometimes, not all sometimes you even have to do it manually. Yes, sometimes you study, and sometimes if the male is a bit bigger than the female, and because of the struggle and all that, he's not able to insert his penis into the vulva of the female, you have to hold it and do it manually. Yes. But then, if you think they have crossed after 2-3 days, and you separate them, you give about 28 days to see if the female will come back in heat. If it doesn't, that means it's been crossed. If it does, that means the first crossing didn't work.
Okay. And after the piglets have been weaned from their birth mothers, how often are they given shots to make sure that they are resistant to some disease and infections? That's it.
Well, the piglets stay with the mother for 6 weeks.
Okay.
So after 6 weeks, you wean them. Usually with me, when I wean them, I give them dewormer shots. And then sometimes, in some cases, if there are a lot of piglets, they tend to fight over the milk. So some of them become a bit malnourished because they are not strong enough to compete with the other siblings. So with them, you give them multivites and stuff like that for them to pick up quickly.
So how many breeds of pigs do you have on your farm? And are they all with local, or you have different ones from the other parts of the world?
Well, on this farm, we only deal with foreign breeds. We have 3 main breeds. The Landrace, the Large White, and the Duroc. These are the main breeds that we have on the farm. They tend to grow very large, as the name suggests, for Large White. And then they are also very economical in the sense of breeding. You know, one pig can give you between 10 and 18 to 20 piglets at a time. Yeah. With the local ones, I do have some local ones on another farm, but I never mix them with these ones.
Okay.
Yes. And with the local ones, they don't tend to grow as large as these ones. And then it's very easy to take care of the local ones. But then you don't get enough value for money because they are very light in weight.
Okay.
Yes. If you see a very big local pig, the most they'll probably grow up to is between 80 and 100 kilos. But I have animals here that are between 300 and 250 kilos.
Okay. So why don't you then cross them?
I thought about it. People do that. But because I have foreign breed and I have local breed, I believe I should just separate them. Local should be local, foreign should be foreign. And one of the main reasons why I do that is because of new breeders. Because let's say if someone comes to your farm and wants a large white, they expect to get a genuine full breed large white. But if they tend to know that, well, this guy does some type of crossing on his farm, if you give them a large white piglet, it looks like a large white, but then it will never grow to reach the size of a large white. And that means you've deceived them. So it's better to keep it clean, original, so that when they come, they know they are getting value for their money.
Okay, so there's no demand for the cross breeds.
There is, usually for slaughtering purposes, for meat. There is, but I don't see why I should.
You should
mix them.
Okay, so it's a
I just want to keep them pure. Yes, exactly.
Okay. So we'll go on a short break, and then when we come back, we shall go deeper into the infections aspect of pig rearing. This is AgroLink, and we'll be discussing all things pig with the CEO of El-leenia Farms, Ernest Owusu Ansah. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we shall go deeper into this discussion. Do stay.
Are you an institution or individual? Do you intend to organize a memorable event to be archived for future reference? Then look no further than AAOU Studios, because it's your best bet with our spacious studio and state-of-the-art media equipment such as 4K Panasonic video cameras, KinoFlow lights, assorted microphones, live streaming equipment, among others. You are sure to get the best of productions. Visit us at Trinity Avenue, East Legon, adjacent the National Accreditation Board, or contact the AAOU Studios via the following email addresses: info@aau.org, AAUTV@aau.org, or ransford@aau.org. Alternatively, you can call us on +233 244 736280.
You're welcome back from the break. This is AgroLink on AAU TV, and for this episode, we are tackling pig production as an entrepreneurial venture to the youth. And I am here at the El-leenia Farms Limited to engage with the CEO on this topic. You're welcome back from the break, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's continue with the infections aspect of pig rearing. And you mentioned that the moment the pigs are weaned from their parents, you give them dewormers. Why is this necessary?
Well, for one, pigs eat anything. So with that, they tend to get a lot of worms in their tummies. And one of the main things that affects the growth of pigs is worms.
Okay.
So that is one critical aspect to look at all the time. Usually we wean them all throughout the year. We
deworm.
Yes, vaccinate them against worms all throughout the year. And the other diseases that you have to look out for. But not everybody has a keen eye to notice. You know, sometimes you may see it and you think it's nothing, but it may be something. One of the main diseases that is a big problem is the African flu virus. That one, it kills quick, and it can destabilize your whole farm in a matter of weeks. I remember about 3 years ago, there was an outbreak of African flu virus within the eastern region, and there were about almost 1,500 pigs lost.
Oh.
And once that disease is found on your farm, all your animals have to be put down. Yes. So with us, we didn't even have one case here, because we take measures to always take good care of the pigs, and also prevention in the form of the foot baths that you saw and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, so what are some of the other vaccines that the pigs must take in order to make sure that they are healthy and good for consumption?
Yes, well, usually I don't believe in pumping your animals with a lot of
vaccines. Yes, okay.
I believe the drugs come to prevent whatever problem each individual animal has. The main ones that you have to do all the time is deworming, and then maybe some form of vitamins. But in the feed we give them, there's always vitamins in there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so it's not needed per se, depending on a specific animal that is malnourished, or you see signs of lack of appetite and things like that.
Okay. And you've been in this business for over 2 years.
Yes, over 2 years now. Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. In what ways do you give back to the youth in this community?
Well, we do a lot of training here. We do a lot of training, and also in this community, for example, water is very scarce. So we have our own submersible pump. We provide free water to the people around here. The roads were very bad because, this is a farming area. So in November, we did some landscaping on the roads to make them more travel. And basically, we try and provide for the less needy. There is a charity in town when you're coming. Yeah, we provide them a lot of food stuff from our farm, and also some clothes and shoes and things like that when we can.
Okay. So if I'm a member of this community and I want to go into pig production, I can easily walk into your farm,
Yes.
talk to you. Is there a fee I must pay, or it's free?
No, it's free.
It's free.
Yes.
Shouldn't you charge in order to, or is it that they come and then they are eager to learn, or they come and go? But when you charge, it drives them. They come every day, they will learn, they will do the right things that you teach them. But when it's free, someone can come today and then might not come tomorrow.
Yes, you're right. Well, there are a lot of people who come in and out of here every day because they hear about a pig farm with a good system in the area, and they want to come and see. But it's not that simple, because even if you come and take a look at my system, for you to be able to construct the building for one and get all your animals, and then the care as well, you understand? So definitely, even if you come and take a look at it and go and construct your building and start, you'd come for I'll say superior consultation. So maybe over there we can talk about some type of fee or commitment to be able to give you proper training. Because, for example, I'm not going to give you the secrets to the feed I give to them.
You're going to sell the feed to them.
Exactly, because it's my recipe.
Okay.
I made it myself. So stuff like that. I'm sure as time goes on, we'll get to it.
So you're charitable with the general knowledge.
Exactly, because I'm very happy when I see, for example, young people or new people trying to come into the business.
Yes, which is very nice.
So you have to encourage them. But in the beginning, if you say you want to take something from them,
of course, it's going to deter them from coming. Okay. And I know in every venture there are some challenges that people face. And you've been in this business for long, and I'm sure you've been able to overcome some of these challenges. But what are some of the challenges you faced when you started, and some that you are still facing as of now?
Well, the main challenge is feeding. Because, for example, my formula is very expensive.
Okay.
But I stick to it because it's readily available and it's easy to mix. A lot of people who, for example, breed local pigs go for, let's say, cassava leaves, pawpaw leaves, stuff like that, which is economical. But the problem with that is pigs need certain supplements in their meals for them to be able to grow quickly. For example, if you breed an animal and it takes a year for the animal to be big enough or large enough for you to sell on the market, you've lost. You should be able to sell your animal by 5 months. And for an animal
by 5 months?
Yes. It should be table ready. And for an animal to grow that quick and fast, you need to have the proper feeding methods. So I think feeding is one of the most expensive aspects of pig rearing that most people get discouraged about. But if you're able to...
But you mentioned that pigs eat anything and everything.
Yes, they'll eat anything.
So how then does it... Then I think the expense depends on you.
Yes, it depends on you, but it also depends on the type of breeds you have.
Okay.
And also the structure of the type of investment you've done.
Okay.
You understand? There are some pigs that when you slaughter have a lot of fat in them. You see, it's because of the feeding. If you give them, let's say, cassava all the time, it's a whole lot of carbohydrate, starch, so they'll get fat. But if you provide a proper formula so that they have all the necessary nutrients they need to grow quickly, that would be the best.
Okay, then rearing them in an enclosed area and leaving them to feed on their own. if they are feeding on cassava every day, but they are moving around a lot, won't they be well exercised enough to lose some fat? As compared to keeping them in an enclosed area, probably not everybody can feed them what you feed them.
Yeah.
So it's expense and the type of breeding system, what makes them fat? Or it's
Well, I can slaughter a very big animal here, and there will be zero fat. And I can slaughter a very lean local pig on another farm, and it will be full of fat. The pigs find it very difficult to burn fat.
okay.
You understand? So if you decide to breed pigs in an open range system or free range system, there's nothing wrong with that. But then you also need to provide them with some sort of supplementary feed to balance whatever they are eating around.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's not about, it's about
Yeah.
what they take, the intake.
Exactly. That's the whole catch about pig breeding. It's a very lucrative business, but then you need them to grow quick.
Yeah,
So you
in
can
5
sell
months.
them.
In 5 months.
Yes,
That's
by 5
very
months
quick.
it should be ready.
It should be ready.
Yes, for table. 5-6 months you should be ready for table.
And it's a very lucrative business.
It is, but it has its ups and downs.
Okay. So you mentioned some challenges. What are some of the ways forward in addressing some of these challenges?
Okay. If you go into pig farming, for example, you would want to go into it as two things, either as a hobby or as a serious pig farmer. So if you're going into it as a serious pig farmer, you need to understand that you need some capital to start. Now, when the animals are producing and you have more and you start selling, that's when you start to enjoy. Because now, anytime you sell an animal, you can use the same money to provide feed
Yes.
for the animals. So when you get to that stage, then you know you're going somewhere. Also, if you have a proper breeding method and you're able to avoid fatalities, because for example, a female pig gives birth to about 12 and then you lose 9.
9, yeah.
You
That's
understand?
terrible.
So if you have a proper breeding method, you can be able to move forward bit by bit. And then you use your sales to cover your costs.
Then with the way pigs produce lots of piglets, you don't need a lot to start a
No,
pig
you
farm.
don't. Actually, I started with just 4.
4.
Yes. With just
And what's
4.
the highest number of pigs you've had on your farm?
I've had 350. I have a bit less now, but yeah.
50.
Yeah, in less than 3 years, yeah.
Okay, so is it necessary to have more males or more females?
It is better to have more females if you plan on increasing your stock
Your stock.
by a large amount.
Okay.
You know, the males are just there for crossing. They just eat and don't do anything. So if you have a few males that can be able to cross your sows for you, then anytime your male grows up to table for consumption, you slaughter it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the lifespan of pigs
Oh,
on your farm?
Pigs. Okay, usually I do not let my pigs get up to 2 years old. Yes. Because then, one, you waste a lot of food. And then what are you keeping a pig for? Because the main purpose of starting the pig farm is to provide meat, you know, and things like that. And also, one of the other good aspects of pig rearing is you're able to provide very neat, clean animals to new breeders who also want to venture into the pig production. Yeah.
Okay, and I know you produce sausages and then you butcher on your farm as well. How easy was it to get license and permits to do this activity?
Well, it wasn't that easy, but we have what you call a travel permit and a slaughtering permit. These are given to you by the assembly, by the veterinary services of the assembly, so that if you want to slaughter an animal, the vet has come to inspect the animal and knows the type of breed you have and how healthy they are. So then he will issue you a slaughtering certificate so you can slaughter it.
So lastly, Last but not the least, do you belong to any association? Just like how the poultry farmers have an association, beekeepers have an association, do pig farmers also have an association they belong to? And what are some of the benefits you derive from this association?
Okay, there are a lot of associations in Ghana concerning pigs, but I belong to the Eastern Region Pig Farmers Association, and there is a national one, I think, you know, Ghana Pig Farmers Association, stuff like that, but I only belong to the Eastern Region Pig Farmers Association. Well, some of the advantages you can get from them is anytime there's a new breed, if you belong to an association, you know about it, because they let you know that, okay, there's an introduction of a new breed from here, from there. So if you're interested, you can go. Also, anytime there are diseases or there's an outbreak, you're able to know about it, so you can do the preventive measures on your farm.
Okay.
And then one other thing too is, you know, as pig farmers, you don't assume I have a lot of pigs, so I usually just sell to myself. Sometimes we outsource and buy from someplace else. So if you want to know where the pig is coming from, the type of breeding system, the type of feeding, because we are an association, we communicate amongst ourselves. So you can always go to other places and outsource.
If a pig can produce about 9 piglets, why do you need to outsource?
Yes, for example, with me, I have built deli shops, meat deli shops and depots in Accra, in Kumasi, and in Tema. I also have a restaurant, and we use a lot of pork in the restaurant. So if I decide to slaughter only mine, I run out of pigs.
Okay.
You understand?
So you have a high demand.
Exactly.
For pigs.
Exactly. Right now, demand for pigs is very high.
Yeah. There are lots of people in the house who don't have jobs. Some have jobs, they are not in love with them, and they are seeking to enter into a field. What advice do you have for them, and why should they choose pig production instead of all the other farming activities they can go into? Why pig production?
Well, I can tell them that I have basically covered almost all the farming practices you can think of in Ghana. I have done pigeons, believe it or not. I've done turkeys, I've done ducks, I've done rabbits, I've done grass cutter, sheep and goats, even cattle.
On a large scale?
For starters, not on a very large scale, but starting.
As a hobby?
Just an introduction into my farming, because it's a mixed farming system.
Okay.
So you try to do a little bit of everything, and then the one that goes well for you, you just continue.
Okay.
But with pig, when I started piggery, in the beginning it was a bit difficult because there are, I should say, a few things you have to learn about pig production. You know, the care. The care is very important. If you're able to pick up on the care and learn how to take very good care of them, it's an advantage for you. I'll tell the youth that pig farming is not a very complicated business. Poultry is very expensive and complicated. But with piggery, for example, how many chickens would you sell to get the same money you sell for one pig?
Okay.
You understand? Yes. So if you sell one pig, let's say about 2,000 Ghana cedis, it will take a lot of chickens
to get 2,000.
To get 2,000 Ghana cedis. So imagine you have a pig that gives birth to 12, and they all survive, times 2,000. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yes. So it's a very good business, and I would encourage everybody to get into it.
Thank you very much for your time, and I hope the next time when we call on you, you'll be able to grant us this interview as you've just done.
You're always welcome.
Okay. This is the end of this episode of AgroLink, and we've been discussing pig production as an entrepreneurial venture for the youth. We've been with the CEO of El-leenia Farms Limited here in Essumamba. Stay tuned to AAOU TV for more insightful episodes.